Hello readers, I'm the Avid reader, and today I'm gonna give 5 tips on how to better read when you're reading geopolitics books. And I've read a lot of geopolitics over time. And I also did 2 years of global politics in high school, by the way, since I did the International Baccalaureate. So I've actually studied this in high school, and I am doing also an international relations minor, which I'm almost done with in university. So I have quite a bit of knowledge on this subject. So these are 5 strategies you could use to increase geopolitics reading comprehension. And at one time or another, I've implemented these. So my number 1 tip, and this is just a tip for reading in general, by the way, so it applies to all types of books you read, fiction and non-fiction. Read after you have done all your chores and homework and work of the day. So, you know, you've got your routines, you've got your university work, office work, school work you have to do. You have to eat, maybe do dishes, take the dog out for a walk and things like that. Read after you've done all of that, then you have no distractions. This is, at least for me, if I've procrastinated a bunch of stuff, then I have it in the back of my mind, so I cannot concentrate and read, really. Or it's a lot harder. So having a clear mind from having finished all your chores of the day is important for reading, and this includes geopolitics, since some of the concepts require a lot of concentration. And the sub-tip of this is that you should allocate about 30 minutes a day right before bed for reading. So include it in your before going to sleep routine. So for me, for example, I get ready for bed, and after that I have allocated half an hour to read before I turn the lights off. And in 30 minutes I would say that I can read about 10 pages. Think of that, if you read for half an hour before bed every day for 1 month, you've read about 300 pages, which is an average book. Just by reading half an hour before bed every day for a year, you could have read about 12 books. That's how, even though I'm regularly swamped with reading homework, I still find some time to read a few books. The half an hour allocated before going to bed is really useful. Tip number 2, get yourself a global politics textbook so that you have a compact reference book. So when I did high school, I took global politics as a subject. I read a bunch of global politics books in my free time. This reading was greatly supplemented by reading the school textbook I was assigned. And the one I used that is pretty good, which is both compact and comprehensive, I think it's about 400 pages, is Andrew Haywood's textbook, Global Politics. So maybe you don't have to get that one, but that's one possible textbook. That textbook covers a ton of key concepts that helps you understand global politics and that you can keep in the back of your mind while you're reading global politics books. Next thing, and this is another thing I did in high school, write down a list of key concepts which you define yourself. So you base your definitions off of your readings, but you write your own. And you do this multiple times. So in global politics class, we had to define and memorize 16 key concepts. And this was very useful later in the exam essay, where we had to define a key concept. Power, interdependence, sovereignty, development, conflict, globalization, sustainability, human rights, liberty, legitimacy, equality, inequality, negative peace, positive peace. Master these key concepts, and you mastered, in a sense, the essence of international relations, because international relations revolves around these key concepts. You cannot understand the conflict over Taiwan if you don't understand sovereignty. Write down and define the key concepts. Tip number 4, read across the spectrum in nonfiction. So that means that you shouldn't just read global politics. You should also read history, and you should especially read economics. Now, for me, the main gap in international relations is that a lot of theorists do not understand economics. So they'll say that power derives from wealth, but they don't understand how wealth is produced. They think that it's innate. It's not, really. Not always. Economics allows you to understand why some countries are more powerful and richer than others. And it also brings into perspective the general progress you have in the world. And reading history also gives you a litany of examples that helps you understand international relations. Because theories in international relations, you need to be able to go back to history and apply them. So you can, for example, apply the responsibility to protect doctrine when looking at the Kosovo intervention in the late 90s. And tip number 5, read everything with a grain of salt. And this also applies to watching my videos. Some authors regularly just make dubious statements. And you need to remember that just because an author wrote something in a very self-assured manner doesn't mean that it's true. So for example, John Mersheimer has written that World War I was a war between liberal democracies, and said that Germany was a liberal democracy at the start of World War I. It was not. It was not a purely dictatorial country, but it was more a dictatorship than a democracy. That claim that he makes is to undermine, for example, the theory of the democratic peace thesis, but he can only make that claim through a historical misconception that Germany was a democracy in World War I. So those are 5 tips that can increase your reading comprehension when reading geopolitics books. And you can apply some of these tips for reading in general, and especially reading non-fiction. And of course, if you're in school or if you're in university and you're doing a course like international relations or global politics, then you should definitely read books on the side on these subjects. Why? Because then you have examples that you can use when you later have to write essays or exams that apply all these theories and content that you learn in class. And if you want global politics book recommendations, then you should check out this playlist where I've recommended 10 books. These are all decent geopolitics books you should check out, except the one I recommend about Peter Zian. It's interesting, but take that book review with a huge grain of salt. But otherwise, I'm the Avid Reader, and I will see you readers next time.